My name is Elizabeth Boyle, and we are here for our first webinar of the 2025 All Hands season. We're really excited to kick off the webinar series with our youth, and I'll share about that in just a minute. But first, we want to talk a little bit about All Hands Whatcom for those of you that might be new to the All Hands community. So I'll share my screen here. Let's see. And I'll tell you a little bit about what All Hands is. There we go. Can you all see my screen okay? Great.
Yep.
Okay. All Hands Whatcom 2025. Our theme this year is It's All Connected, and you'll hear more about that in a minute. All Hands is made possible by an amazing assortment of sponsors and partners from throughout Whatcom County. Chuckanut Health Foundation and Alta Gas are two of our lead sponsors. City of Bellingham and the Whatcom County Health and Community Services are amazing partners. Birds Play Bling Thrives. You can go on and on. We are blessed with an abundance of community partners. All Hands Whatcom was formed because all these people came together and said, we can, need to wrap our arms around this opioid crisis together and can create learning opportunities, community gatherings so that we can do better together. So All Hands was started in 2023. So this is season 3 is how we're referring to it. And we're really excited about the momentum already this year. Our summit this year is pivoting to September. The first 2 years were held in June, so make sure to mark your calendar for September 24th and 25th. We're going to start with a half-day reentry simulation, followed by a full day of panels and community conversations. And the theme, getting back to it's all connected. We are having a conversation of how can we vocalize that the opioid crisis, behavioral health services, and reentry are all intertwined. We're not abandoning the opioid crisis by bringing up other conversations into it. It's all a part of the conversation. And so we're really owning that this year and saying, just reminding everyone the importance of each of those elements in people's recovery. So please mark your calendars for that, and it'll be held at the Ferndale Event Center. We're hoping that will encourage even more people from the county to join us. Today's webinar, we'll talk about that in just a second, is the first in our series, but our second and third have also been scheduled. The second one is called Tip of the Iceberg, and it's focused on the learnings from a team that just recently visited Iceland, and they're coming back to talk about what their learnings are. So please join us on May 15th for that webinar. And then on June 6th, we're having a conversation around housing and the whole housing continuum, from shelter to permanent housing. So please mark your calendars for both of those webinars. And today we have this amazing team of youth from Northwest Youth Services, and they'll introduce themselves, but I just want to say thank you to this team of youth and Eve. This tremendous body of work and what they do for our community. We're so grateful that they are our feature for today. And something to notice, today is not a webinar in the strict sense because we're trying to make sure we learned. Eve shared with us, it might be helpful for youth to be able to see our faces during our conversation. So we changed our format to make sure it worked for the people that were actually presenting. So please note that it's not a traditional webinar. So when they're not speaking, we'll all be on screen together. And we thought that created more of a community conversation. So without further ado, Eve, can you please introduce your amazing team? Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Hi all, my name is Eve Mason Marcus. I'm the Senior Director of Advocacy and Community Action at Northwest Youth Services. I use they, them pronouns, and I have the honor of working with our Youth Action Board, which is a group of amazing young people with lived experience, ages 13 to 25. And we do all kinds of things, which we'll get into in a little bit. So I'll pause there and then pass it off to some of our Youth Action Board members and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Reagan. I'm a YAB member, but I'm also a care coordinator for the street outreach team at Northwest Youth Services. And I'm 23. I feel like we talked about sharing ages, so there's that. Yeah.
Awesome. Hello, my name is Naomi. I'm 25 and I'm also a Youth Action Board member. and have been for almost 2 years now. And I have experience being homeless in multiple capacities, so that's where I'm coming from.
Thanks, Mary.
Mhm.
I'm Jonathan. Hi, I'm a member of YAB, the Youth Advocacy Board. I'm very happy to be here. I'm just your average youth. So I'm happy to be representing lots of youth in the community. I'd like to say I'm an expert in homelessness. I've experienced it, and I'm happy to be here, enacting positive change.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Hello, I'm in like 2 screens right now, but my name is Praneeth Kaur. Can you guys like see me like on the screen? That's awesome. You'll be able to hear my voice. So, my name is Praneeth Kaur. I go by she, her pronouns, and I am part of Whatcom County's Youth Action Board, and I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, great. I'm gonna share my screen. We have slides, and then I probably won't be on screen, but you'll hear my voice. Okay, let's do this thing. Oh, just kidding, I have to share my screen first. Just kidding. All right, can y'all see that okay? I can't see anyone, so maybe
Eve, there you go, perfect.
sweet, thank you. All right, so today we are talking about authentic youth engagement as part of the All Hands 2025 series. And who we are. So there are Youth Action Board members here, and Northwest Youth Services is represented. The Youth Action Board is part of Whatcom's Community for Functional Zero, which used to be called the Anchor Community Initiative. And the Youth Action Board is a group of folks with lived experience of homelessness, housing insecurity, incarceration, and other systems. And all young people involved are compensated for their time and expertise. And we believe that centering youth voices and making sure young people are involved in the solutions of ending youth homelessness is vital to creating actual changes in our community. And Northwest Youth Services has been involved in the community since 1976. Our mission is to affirm youth experience and autonomy as we work together to end youth homelessness and dismantle the systems that perpetuate youth homelessness. Anything else you want to add around Youth Action Board?
I like that sentence, affirm youth experience and autonomy. I think that's something important, and like more than affirm is like I don't know, like learn and grow from it.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right, so our goals for today is to hear directly from young people and learning from their expertise, investigating what adultism and power dynamics look like and how to use that knowledge to interrupt systems and transform youth work, understanding tools and strategies for authentic youth engagement, including feedback and program design, and then also identifying how to strengthen community and build relationships through creative engagement and youth leadership. So first, we wanted to just set the stage by defining what adultism is, and I'm going to hand it off to Pernie.
Thank you. Adultism is defined as the belief that adults know better or are more capable than young people. For me, adultism is beyond not being allowed opportunities of employment or allowed in spaces where there's discussions that impact youth lives, but we are not welcomed or invited to those spaces because our voices are the most important. I feel like young people should be involved in any process that is implementing design to serve young people, because we have and are still in systems of care and understand the difficulties of navigating the systems, and making it easier from the perspective of a young person could really help, because we know how to communicate with young people and reach out to them in a way that makes them feel seen and heard. So yeah.
That's great. Anything else? Anyone else wants to add?
I think that a big part of adultism is forgetting that young people are people too.
Mhm.
And when interacting with people, like the most important thing is like having a relationship, because that's what happens. You know, like people have relationships, and like when you forget that and just like see young people as like someone you're serving or like a customer or something like this, you know, like people are people and relationships are important.
100%.
I think this can also show up in an adult making decisions on behalf of a young person or not consulting them when it comes to like information or decisions that inform a young person's life, because the adult thinks that they know better and don't need to inform the young person of the decision-making process or the information. And that can be because they don't think they're capable of like handling that information, or because they don't think they're capable of making that decision for themselves.
Thanks. Next slide. There we go. And so another part of adultism, or just spaces where adults are working with young people, are power dynamics. And this is something that I don't know if a lot of adults are practice acknowledging. It's something I've definitely had to face in myself for doing this work. And so just wanted to share some types of power dynamics. Also, just want to note, I'm not going to read everything on the slide, but I'm happy to share out slides. So first, just wanted to share like some of the power that I hold in this space is I have a college education. I make a good wage. I have a house. I have that security. I hold formal power. So because I am the staff in the space, you know, thinking about what kind of decision-making power I hold and how do I share that with young people. Also thinking about like rewards and consequences. You know, we have the power to give things or to surprise folks with things or to take things away, just because we have that access and privilege as staff. And also thinking about information power. Generally, as staff, we know more about young people than they'll ever know about us. We know their background and circumstances, and they don't know that about us, and acknowledging that. And also just keeping in mind that staff often know more about organizational changes or policy. And so, you know, I do my best to be as transparent as possible, but also would love to hear from others around what power dynamics exist in your roles. So maybe in the chat, if you'd like to put in what power and privilege you hold as an adult in youth spaces. We can't read the chat now, but we'll definitely check back in with it afterwards. Any examples you all want to share around like how power dynamics have impacted you in spaces with adults?
For me, like sometimes I hear people, like adults at the places I frequent that like offer services, like whispering amongst themselves. And I'm always like wondering what they're talking about because I love to be in the know of things. And I feel like when I'm not, I feel like I don't know, I feel like kind of insecure, like something could happen and like I'm not gonna know about it and it's gonna surprise me. And that just like puts me off. Like I love to know things. And just because I'm young doesn't mean like I can't handle it. Like, yeah, like I can handle it. I'll try my best.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Go for it.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I think kind of when we're talking about adultism, we like my whole youth life, I can tell when adults are withholding information, and it feels like it makes the interaction disingenuous. Like because you're withholding things, it's just like you're keeping a secret, exactly.
Yeah,
And I'm
like-
just afraid of that. And it probably isn't even that serious to begin with. You could just try to work it out. Like we can just work through the conversation. I don't know.
Or even like be honest about the information
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can't give,
totally.
right? Or like let them know why you can't give them information. I think a lot of us feel way more secure when we have as much information as we can get. And so as an adult, if you're not allowed to share certain things, like being honest with young people about why you can't share it or what you can't share.
Plus that models good boundaries, so.
Models good boundaries. Excellent. Yeah.
Which all goes into like trust and stability when, like, as a youth, so much is outside of your control, and especially as a vulnerable youth or marginalized youth. So it definitely contributes to stability, trust, good boundaries to share information and share information about why you can't share information.
Definitely.
Well, in social service, power dynamics could really make it difficult to get youth the help that they need, since a lot of social workers are, of course, adults, and I'm grateful that Northwest Youth Services allow like young people. I got the internship from the Youth Action Board, and it's getting youth with lived experience with housing insecurity and systemic like failures. We understand from our perspective as young people in the current climate, how difficult it is for us to even understand how these systems work. And because adults are the ones that are making up these systems and designing these systems, they think they know what's best for us.
Yeah.
Always. So when we receive inadequate care, it falls into the hands of the adults that just refuse to have us involved in implementing important changes that could have made it easier for us to access help that we need. So removing the mindset as an adult that I always know what's best for other people or like young
Yes.
people is something that adults should work on every day to help combat this like this desire to always be in charge and always have full control. Sometimes you have to let children fall so they can get back up and learn not to scrape their knee again.
Beautiful. Thanks.
If there's one more thing I
Yeah,
can
of
add,
course.
like as to attesting to consequence power, like the saying, with great power comes great responsibility. Like, be careful how you use your power, because like many times I see like adults sort of like teasing, oh, like I could showing their power in like a mean way, you know, like just be very careful. Like, with great power comes great responsibility. That's the best way to sum it up.
Yeah, amen. And so that's a great segue into what is the antidote? How do we try and flatten those power dynamics or create a space that has that shared power with young people? That's so important to building trust and building relationships. So some of the things that we've talked about in the Youth Action Board and I found in this work is ask what young people want out of their time, affirm youth autonomy, focus on youth identity goals, don't assume anything. Transparency is so important, being direct, providing options, providing clarity, making sure that there's a shared understanding of what's happening and what information is being given. And then also educate, like you can share what you've learned in life, and I challenge you to ask to be educated by the young people in your spaces and in your lives as well. Would also love to hear from y'all about what other ways adults can try and share power with young people or expand on some of the things that.
Yeah, in part, like being direct and being transparent about power that youth do hold and power that youth don't hold. I think that there's, in youth engaged work, there's this tendency to ask youth to dream big and to really, to dream big, but then it ends up not fitting within like the resources or the time and capacity that adults have to follow through on that. So just being open about what resources are available and what capacity you do have so that, and what power youth do have, so there aren't like false expectations set.
I think honestly, that's one of the biggest lessons I learned working with young people over the last 3-4 years is I want to give them everything, right? I want to be able to meet their needs. I want to be able to promise the world. And sometimes I overpromised. And in the end, that was way more harmful to the young person I was working with than it would have been to just be honest about where I'm at, what my capacity is, and what's possible. So I think I've really learned to be like, I can't do that. Or let's figure it out together. Or I don't know if I can, but I will try. I will give you my all. But if we can't, and here are some options if it can't happen. So, and that has been a huge learning point for me and has allowed me to connect and build better relationships with young people. Like, I feel like so much of it really comes down to honesty.
Yeah, I mean, if I may.
You may indeed.
I think when things are super unstable or when a youth has like trauma or like consistent instability where things happen, they're kind of waiting for that shoe to drop. And if you're not telling them the truth, right, like that hit of when things don't work out is, I don't just like that much stronger when we could have been like preparing the youth for things and like, yeah, the youth who are experiencing housing instability in other systems, they know that stuff isn't working great, like the systems aren't perfect and this isn't probably the first time that they haven't gotten a thing that they need, right? So being honest builds a trust.
And when you say no, it makes your yeses that much stronger.
Yes, I love
And
that.
like, I feel like somebody who's willing to say no to me, it shows that they're like aligned with themselves and our relationship, that they feel like they can be honest with me and that their yeses are gonna be like a yes. And then saying no also allows somebody to go elsewhere to find what they need. Because like you're not going to be the end all be all for somebody and like probably anybody in your life. And so saying no, like you can sleep at night, they can sleep at night and maybe find somewhere else that can say yes to their needs.
Yeah.
Again, modeling healthy boundaries.
Modeling healthy boundaries. I'm singing that too. Yeah.
For me, one of the most important things to keep in mind when working with vulnerable youth is to not judge. And it's not just like, oh, I won't like give my opinions on it. Like, I want you to actually educate yourself on intersectionality and how these vulnerable youth that are homeless or having housing insecurity can also be going through addiction or going through other means of oppression. And when I'm dealing with people who others find it difficult to work with, no, they're not actually difficult to work with. You just have to hold space for them to be themselves and accept that, and also respect that this is who they are and they need just love and kindness and compassion and honesty that they probably haven't received from adults all throughout their life. It takes one trusted adult to change a child's life. And I'm gonna keep saying that because I want to be like a role model for the younger individuals that I work with. Even though I'm a young person myself, because I have grown so much, seeing how systems affect youth and adults alike, and how it's just humans behind all of this. So it's very important to just be compassionate and kind and know that you don't always know everything and people won't share everything and we're all going through something. So just be the person that they can go to and feel safe.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Something you said also makes me think it's like youth don't owe adults anything. Young people do not owe adults anything. And I think that sometimes can be that can harm a relationship with young people. And then also with not judging folks too. I think actually someone said this in an interview recently with me and it stuck with me. Behavior is information. Like if a young person is acting quote unquote inappropriately or not fitting within the space, like that is information that professionals or adults or even young people like can take in, like, why is this youth behaving this way? Like it's not like there's always a deeper reason, right? And I think it's important for every, others, anyone to like really like investigate that if the youth is willing to share more, but just keeping in mind, like, it's probably not about you, like, don't take it personally. And if there's space and a relationship built, check in with that young person and see if there's something going on in ways that you can support them.
I guess like, just like honesty is a huge thing, like. The person providing service to me is like, your feelings are as valid as my feelings, so like. If you're feeling a certain way about like how I'm acting, then it's like, it's completely okay to like let me know, like. I think it's gonna just build like a stronger relationship.
Mhm.
Awesome. Anything else before we move on?
Yes.
Yeah.
So on that note of like behavior is information, it's feedback. And I just want to like really stress what you said about like if the youth is willing to share something and if you like have the relationship to check in with the youth, because like with the asking antidote, like you don't want to assume anything. You don't want to assume what the behavior is because of, or act out of those assumptions, especially. And then I also wanted to underline, like focusing on youth identified goals and how important it is to allow youth to be the leaders of their own lives and to be the ones making decisions. And it kind of goes back to what Praneet was saying earlier about, people letting people fall and scrape their knee, but it's a lot more affirming to make a decision for yourself and to fail than to have someone else make the decision for you, fail, and then have them to blame. And then you're not really learning the lesson other than I shouldn't trust that person.
Yeah.
Then, oh, maybe they should be like a little bit more careful when scaling a tree.
Totally.
Like rather than like, oh my gosh, Eve told me to climb that tree and now like it didn't work out. And look at my bloody knee.
I catch you.
Yeah. But I tried in the middle of the night. But yeah, just how important it is that like you're not the one telling youth what they need. And if they ask for feedback, then absolutely give your honest feedback about what you think will and like won't work. But that's really only if you're asked.
Yeah.
You should be doing the asking most of the time.
And also even asking for consent, like, hey, do you want feedback?
Yeah.
Are you open to hearing some constructive feedback,
And sometimes I'm like, no.
Yep.
I don't.
And that's totally valid.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
like respecting that is really key.
Yeah. And just one thing I found in this work is when we work to share power, when we work to flatten those hierarchies, young people participate more, they feel better about themselves and they feel like they belong. Like, I can't tell y'all how many times I've seen young people come into the Youth Action Board, new to the space, new to the people, not really sure where they fit in, or maybe they're just here for snacks, or they're just here to get paid, or they're just here to take a nap, and that's totally fine. Like, this space is for them. And once they continue coming and start realizing or taking that power, they bloom in the most beautiful way. I get emotional every time I talk about it because it's just like the most powerful and like powerful thing I've ever experienced. And like I hope that we can continue making spaces for young people where they can hold power and they can grow in that way and share their brilliance with our community. Great. Let's see, I lost myself. This is something I wanted to share too, just a different group of young people. Some Youth Action Board members were involved, but last year for the All Hands Summit, we created a zine. And within that zine, we, the young people involved created a guide for the olds. And this was a group of young people, mostly high schoolers, but ages ranged from 13 to 25. And so they wanted to create this for the attendees of the All Hands Summit, just to give them some perspective around what youth are looking for. So I'm not going to read through all of it, but maybe some of you still have your zines from last year. And again, I will send slides out so y'all can read this on your own time. But one of my favorites is Watch Your Face. I don't know if you all have any ones you wanted to point out before we move on.
I suppose, Naomi, if you want to mention our feeling with the word olds.
Oh yeah, we can, if you want to share.
No, that's not, it's, did you wanna share?
Well, yeah, it's just like, well, we think it might be a bit outdated, but like also we said like, it's just kind of like a way to lighten like the mood, you know, between us, you know, like no hard feeling. You can call us youngsters, you can call us babies, and we'll call you like wise, and we'll call you like very educated, or like sick and dying or disabled.
Well, I mean, sorry. So part of the conversation was like, why is it called Guide for the Olds? Because this was made by some other youth. And I think that kind of just highlights the point that not all young people think the same, right? That like young people are not homogenous, right? They have their own opinions, they have their own ideas, they come from their own histories. And so for some youth, they're like, yeah, we definitely want to call this Guide for the Olds. And then on Tuesday, when we were reviewing it with Youth Action Board, they're like, isn't that offensive? Or like, is that rude to call adults olds? And so that was just where that conversation came from.
I don't think being disabled is an insult at all.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But-
that-
No, you're good, but just clarify. One of them that really stuck out to me was like solidarity, not charity. I think it's really obvious when someone is working from like a top down mentality and that they're doing this work to feel good about themselves and because they feel bad for you. It's just really an icky feeling all around. Like even just from simple interactions like at the food bank where you can tell like this somebody feels really bad for, yeah, like it says like poor thing. Yeah, that just doesn't contribute to youth empowerment at all, or like
Yeah.
empowerment really of anybody. Yeah, and then also like having a different opinion is not back talk. I think that that's something that, and passive aggression, they kind of work together in a way. But yeah, I think that there should be room for like what is it called, like generative conflict, where a difference of opinion is not liking somebody or looking down on someone because they have a different opinion. And maybe you should feel honored that someone feels comfortable enough to share another opinion with you.
Totally.
And take that as a sign of trust and work from there.
Yeah, that's great. Sweet. Okay. I want to make sure we have time for questions, so we're gonna run through the next few slides. This is a tool that we use in the Youth Action Board that was shared with me from the Anchor Community Initiative folks, Way Home Washington folks, before they closed down in October of last year. So the Youth Engagement Ladder is a tool we use to kind of measure where we're at. Are we performative in youth engagement? Are we sharing power with young people? And so one way we use this ladder is we'll do check-ins. So like I'll throw it up on the screen and folks will fill out post-it notes and kind of reflect on like, where is the Youth Action Board in terms of this ladder of engagement? Where is Northwest Youth Services on this ladder? Where is the library? So like, it's a really cool tool to use to like analyze how spaces are engaging with young people. And so I'd also invite y'all to maybe take a second and reflect on like your position or your agency and where do you think you fall on this ladder? And it's okay if you're a 0 or a 1, and it's awesome if you're a 6, 7, or 8, but also recognizing that it's a constant journey, and like sometimes one week you'll be a 7 and then one week you'll be a 3. And like other feedback I've gotten is like sometimes we want this one activity or this one action to be an 8. And then there are other things like scheduling guests that they would rather I take on. And so they're like, it's okay if that's like at the bottom of the ladder. So also thinking in mind, just like, it doesn't have to be like program wide, like there can be aspects of the program that fall in different places of the ladder. But this is kind of a nice way to gain some anonymous feedback, or if you want to have a conversation, direct feedback. But it's kind of nice to have that scale and just like, okay, what can we do to get from a 4 to a 5? And also making sure that conversation includes the young people that the ladder is referring to. I guess it'd be great to hear from you all if this has been helpful in the Youth Action Board, or like how it's been helpful in spaces that we've used it.
I mean, it's good to like have a basic tool to navigate how we like reflect on the services or programs that we're interacting with.
Mhm.
So it's good to have like a basic understanding of what youth and get engagement looks like and what it looks like progressively. And the goal is to get as high up the ladder you can without falling.
Yeah. And it's okay to fall, right? We can get back up and
Get back up.
climb that ladder one more time.
It can make it stronger.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe build the ladder out of different materials, I don't know.
Yeah, I found it really helpful in visualizing youth engagement and youth action and to what degree youth are centered in the work. And yeah, I think other people have also found it, like in the youth action board, have found it helpful. And it's also good, like we have a youth action board like leadership team or steering committee. And it's good to reflect on in that space as well as we create agendas and plan for the future to see what kind of where we are with them.
Yeah, and I find this is a way better tool to use than surveys, like young people, and I mean, even myself, like I'm tired of surveys, like let's have a discussion, let's have this visual aid, let's be able to like place things on the paper and point out where we're at. Yeah, did you want to add anything?
I like that it's a ladder, because like normally a ladder, like you want to climb to the top, so like just that visualization and like keep moving, you know, like you can't like stay on the ladder and just like stay in the middle, either like you're gonna go down or you're gonna go up, so like, you know, yeah.
One step at a time.
Ooh, it's like you're trying to reach youth autonomy. Like that's
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
the top.
Yeah, and so that's a great segue, Purnit, thank you. So this is another youth engagement ladder, a little more detailed, and they actually have a couple more steps on top, talking about that youth leadership, that youth design, that youth, just making sure that youth are involved in every aspect of organizing and governing and leading and designing. Yeah, anything else around youth engagement ladders?
I think it just goes along with like nothing about us without us.
Yeah.
And how important it is to have youth involved in the creation of, and not just involved with like really spearheading the creation of programs and like the implementation and governing like all of that of programs that deal with youth. And I think that like kind of goes back to adultism too, where it's like adults have created the systems, but don't think that the youth within them understand them.
Yep.
And then don't look for like even feedback or youth to create new programs. So yeah, organizing and governing is definitely the dream.
Mhm. And what an opportunity we have as adults and staff to provide the conditions that youth see themselves as leaders, that youth see themselves in these positions of power, that youth see themselves as partners in this work. I mean, especially at Northwest Youth Services, we see a lot of young people who haven't been given that autonomy, who haven't been given opportunities to see themselves in these bigger roles, in these positions of power, and that it changes people. I've seen it. I feel like a lot of you probably have too. I know you all have, and like I've seen all of you change too. It's been beautiful. It's awesome. And so when it's like that thing with representation, it's like when young people can see themselves in other ways, like it just opens up the door to so many more possibilities. And this one I'm not going to go too deep into, but this is something that Sue Ling Zhao shared with me a few years ago, and it's just really stuck with me. The spectrum of community engagement to ownership. And I think this is applicable across the board in all the work that so many of us do. How do we go from marginalization to community ownership? And so one of my goals with the Youth Action Board is how do we go from marginalization to youth ownership? I would love to just take notes, and I think that's something we're working towards. And Naomi mentioned the youth leadership meetings, and like those have been a great way to kind of bring in more youth action board members to design and lead the program. And one other thing I forgot to say too is with ownership and with the ladder, I've had multiple youth action board members come up to me and say, I've never been asked for my feedback before. Like I've never seen my feedback be implemented, or I've never seen my feedback be considered. So I think it's really important to make sure that we're not just checking a box for youth engagement, that we're really putting our words into actions and making sure we're creating opportunities and conditions for young people to be leaders and to take up space. And so that leads into these next couple slides around accessibility, because how can young people engage in spaces if they don't have their needs met? So maybe I'll hand it off to Naomi to speak more.
Well, yeah, accessibility, I think like on that note too of, youth leadership, but also when youth ask for help, that's also youth led. It's not somebody just coming in and helping and making everything the way that they think it should be. It's like working on behalf of the youth. And so these are just a few things that we do in the Youth Action Board to make the space more accessible, and things that you can do to help make your space more accessible. So we have regular check-ins about pretty much everything, I would say. For example, meeting times. There's a lot going on, and so we probably have check-ins every quarter about what meeting times work for people, and keep it pretty flexible with polls, and are willing to change the meeting time. And then we also have multiple ways to get information about the meetings. So we have meeting notes, we have agendas ahead of time, and then in the beginning of the meeting, we usually go over what we did the meeting before. And like really, really huge one is compensation for expertise. So that really breaks down a lot of barriers that people might have in coming to the space. Being compensated means that you don't have to, it frees up your mental capacity, and that you don't have to worry as much maybe about like where your next meal is going to come from, or where how you're going to pay rent, or how you're going to do laundry, things like that. Does anybody have anything to say about those 2 points?
I guess like, yeah, with the direct cash assistance, you're or like compensation, right? Like you aren't like giving up other opportunities to make money, right? To then like participate in the space. So there's that. And it feels like productive. Also, youth having ownership over what they do with the money, I feel like is super important. Yeah, like it's for you to do what you must do with it, because you know best about what your needs are,
Yeah. And then like then it feels like work, and like getting paid for it, like maybe like okay, maybe I'll try a little, and then like kind of like motivates you a little bit.
Yeah, because we don't want, the last thing we want is unpaid labor. And like you all bring the expertise of your experiences into the space, and that's something that is important to compensate.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the Youth Action Board, we're paid $25 an hour for our time, which I think is well worth it. We do a lot of work, and it feels really great that that work is valued in dollar bills. Straight up. So,
and you're not just paid for attending meetings, right? Like there's also outside work, like creating agendas or creating slide decks or doing outreach, and like all of that is paid. All of their time is paid, not just meeting time.
Yeah, exactly. So that's great. And then wait, will you go back?
Yep.
So just to quickly go over like what else, we also always provide food and drinks. There's also laundry here, and bus passes are available. We're in an accessible location right downtown, very close to bus routes. And then we do a range of activities, have breaks, fidget toys, paper, that just kind of allow for a range of stimulation. And then we also keep a calendar and share reminders to keep people informed. And we usually we have a consistent meeting space, which helps people if they don't have a phone or aren't able to communicate in some way. They always know that we're gonna be here during this time unless the meeting time changes, but it really doesn't, and things like are communicated always. We also allow pets, which is great. They have a therapeutic quality about them and allow someone to come to the meeting if they don't have someone to watch their pet or somewhere they can leave their pet. And we also are, no question is a stupid question. There's a lot of space for not knowing. There can be a lot of acronyms thrown around in this work. And so it's never an issue for someone to jump in and say, wait, like, I don't know what that means. And I think that really helped me coming into the space as well, because it was definitely intimidating. And I think that goes into like information power and privilege as well. And that's an antidote, is that you can just leave room for questions always, and then it's never a burden. And do you want to talk, Jonathan, about release the flow, let it go, and balancing peaceful peace and playful play?
Oh, well, that was mine. Peaceful peace and playful play. I think just having like that kind of like just means like having a comfortable space for like everyone. And like, like not like really loud noises or like nothing like where it's awkward, where it's like everyone's quiet. So that's like peaceful peace and playful play. And like go with the flow. It's like, accept people, accept things, things are gonna happen, try and work with it.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we had an agenda and then
Yeah.
completely done something else?
Yeah, exactly. Like things happen. Sometimes things that you wouldn't expect take priority, and it's fine. Like let it happen, let
Yeah.
the youth guide it. Like
Practice.
we're good.
Yeah.
When everyone has a voice, then it's like it's not so like you can go with the flow then. It's like it's much easier.
Mhm. Did you want to add? Yeah, thanks. Awesome. Okay, and so then one more piece that's super important, and then we kind of talked a little bit about with the ladders, is feedback. So like really being intentional and about providing opportunities for feedback. I've also found it's been super helpful to provide different types of opportunities for feedback. And so one of the ones we use for all of our meetings is at the end of the meeting, we do glow and grows. I actually learned this from the UW Clears program for something I was involved with them for, but basically at the end of the meeting, glows, what worked well, what are you proud of, what was fun, what do you want to see more of, and this can be personal or for the group. And then grows, what didn't work, what could be improved, what would you like to do better, what could staff do better, like why do you feel this way. So it also, another opportunity for you all to engage with us is maybe if you want to share some glow and grows from our presentation so far, or you can wait until the very end and do it then. But it's really, I find it's a good practice just for myself, and it's also a great way to get anonymous feedback from youth. And at the start of every meeting, I share out what the glows and grows were from the previous meeting, and we've gotten some really great feedback, and it's allowed us to pivot and kind of adjust programming as needed. And then our ladder check-ins, like we talked about, and those can be monthly or quarterly or annually, whatever feels best for your program or what youth want to see. And then also really making sure there are casual feedback opportunities. So I feel like anyone who's been in meetings with me facilitating, I love using thumbs. I love asking for hands, like one finger, this is not what you want, this is not the thing. 5 fingers is like, yes, this is definitely the thing. So like there's opportunities for nonverbal feedback, and then also being available for one-on-one check-ins. Like I'm always, don't look at my calendar, it'll stress you out, but just like I do really try to prioritize time for young people. So if someone wants to check in one-on-one, I'm available, but also encouraging peers to check in with each other and like building out that support network within the Youth Action Board too. I'm going to keep us moving if that's okay. And then I think this might be our last slide. So building strong relationships and youth leadership through creative engagement. Just a couple examples. So like last year, the Youth Action Board created a zine. That's the piece of art on the left side there. from the zine. We also worked on creating a logo, that's on the far bottom corner there. And other things we've done, like a couple weeks ago in the sunshine, we created seed bombs, which was really cool. I'd never done that before. They're actually still curing on my deck, so I need to bring those in next week. We've done karaoke, picnics in the park, supporting each other's art, going to performances, bringing youth presentations to the Youth Action Board, doing street outreach. And then one that I think is so powerful is like celebrating things, like celebrating birthdays, celebrating accomplishments, life events, celebrating graduation. Like a lot of the young people involved in the Youth Action Board don't have that family unit to celebrate with them. And I think the YAB has really become that family unit for a lot of youth in celebrating life and all that they accomplish. We have 6 minutes. Should we pivot to questions? Cool. All right. I do have a YAB referral form QR code. So maybe I'll put that back up at the very end, but I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so we can see all of your beautiful faces. And we'll do some questions. Maybe, let's see. Ooh, so many things in the chat, y'all. Love it. So yeah, share your growing glows. Maybe if you have questions for Youth Action Board members, I'd say just unmute and ask. Who's brave enough?
We don't bite.
Go
Hi,
for it.
you all are closer to the 20-year-old range. Do any of these things work differently or require different skills if you're engaging people who are maybe closer to like 12 or 13, or maybe haven't had as much experience participating in this level of engagement?
Well, I was 12 or 13 once, and I feel like then I would have loved to have had a jump start in life, started working. So I feel like totally if I could be here in YAB, like a place where I feel good in the community, I don't know, a position of being engaged and being able to do a part of the work, that would be really cool too.
Yeah, and I'd say as the staff in the space, I don't treat the 13, 14-year-olds any differently than I treat the 20-year-olds. And I think there's some power in that intergenerational space. And let's just trust kids to know what kids want and speak for themselves. And also thinking how can I love seeing how the older youth in the space model that for younger folks. And also will say we have started a separate Youth Action Board space at the pad that's specifically for 13 to 17-year-olds in our emergency shelter. Reagan's been helping lead that too. And so that's been a really cool way to bring those voices in that might not be able to access the space otherwise.
Yeah, I will just say the best thing that people did for me when I was 12 or 13 was treated me like I knew what was going on, because I did. And empowered me. And so a space like this, I wouldn't say if my 12-year-old self came in, I would say everything still applies. Yeah.
Let's see, Jade, I see your hand up.
Thanks for your question.
Well, first of all, y'all did amazing. I feel like this is just filling the younger version of me that was yeah, kind of not the adult's favorite in the room. So I really appreciate y'all. And honestly, this has been better than a lot of the adult talks that I tend to go to. So I appreciate the confidence and expertise. So real quick background, because I talk a lot, but I work in a healthcare space, and we give recovery support to youth. And we understand age 13 and up in Washington, you can consent. You don't have to have parent consent. You don't have to have a guardian that says yes or no. And so we do work to empower that. But I wanted to know your feedback, because one thing for me in my role is trying to connect with youth, and you've got all these gatekeepers. And I know it from being a homeless 15-year-old myself, right? You've got teachers that are concerned, you've got parents, you've got uncles that are no, you can't do this, whatever. And so when, as an adult, for me, even though I have that power and privilege, I'm trying to connect through the adults first to get to the youth and say hey, we've got this service. But I find sometimes that that approach is even more difficult. So I guess the question would be, what would y'all recommend in your expertise of trying to connect to youth directly when there are so many systems and gatekeepers that can really keep out the supports to as much as they can let them in, if that makes sense?
I think the very first step is to acknowledge that these systems are failing and that adults are failing children, and that proving yourself as someone that can create positive relationships with young people without judgment, and having them identify their own goals instead of projecting or assuming what's best for them, and actually hearing out what they truly need. Sometimes the only support they need is a bus ticket to their family's home, right? You don't have to fill out a whole service interest form to get that need met. Simply a single conversation and divergent funding could have just gotten that done in a single day. So just allowing for that clear communication and clear goals and clear boundaries being set is very important.
I would say on that note of clear communication, like also having a like direct mean of communication, like to use like your phone number, your email, and being consistent with following that up. And I wanted to share this out with anybody also who's interested in speaking with the YAB, but maybe also you specifically. Who is this? Jade. We'd love to have you and maybe flesh out these ideas a little bit more. Usually on the last Wednesday or Tuesday now of every month, we have guests, and so I just wanted to extend that information to all of you. If you'd like to share about your program, if you'd like youth input, we would love to have you. And yeah, please just contact Eve.
Thank
Great, Isabella? This will probably be our last question for today.
I was just wondering, so I have only one meeting and then a lot of the kids are not still going. So like I work at a teen center, so middle schoolers and high schoolers, and I am trying to do an advisory board. It's called Tacos. So I also give them tacos. It's the Teen Advisory Council of Students. What would you recommend for like a first meeting for them to understand the amount of like voice that we're trying to give them, to set the expectations and for them to like feel comfortable or feel like their voices are heard? I don't know if that makes sense, but like how would you advise an adult, I guess, to lead a meeting that it's supposed to be youth led eventually, hopefully?
First meeting?
It starts with adult support and structure, implementing community guidelines to respect the space and the people in it, and also having possibly roles that eventually develop to mitigate like the meeting space and like the agenda. Having an adult that can really help create a structure from their professional background and understandings of how to facilitate meetings. Adults teaching us how to facilitate and lead ourselves is very important to have in the space when it's first being formed, or just having a trusted adult that a lot of young people are interacting with, either in like direct service or like outreach in social service agencies. So having social workers actually present in the space, or adults that know how to hold spaces that young people can freely lead, but also have like a supportive character in the background, or like at least like having a lead that we can all trust to like be there all the time is very important. So yeah.
Yeah. I would break it up into like two categories. Maybe one would be explaining the organizational structure and maybe some gaps that you've noticed that you'd like youth input in. And then I'd also probably primarily focus the meeting on what the youth would like out of the meeting. So like, what do the youth want the community guidelines to be? What do youth want to be seeing in the space? Like, and as youth who are engaging with the program, they are probably already aware of the gaps that you see and see a lot more. So areas that they'd like to improve and would like to give input on and see the degree of involvement that they would like to take. That's kind of like two,
Yeah.
points that I would hit.
Nice, thanks. I think from my perspective, like the relationship building is the most important part. So like really allowing space to like get to know each other, get to like share who you are too as a staff member, and let youth share who they are. Maybe even like incorporating art or music or some kind of activity that isn't just about like being put on the spot or like having to say something, like creating other ways that might not be like other opportunities that aren't verbal. And then also, yeah, really like, I think there's this pressure for us to like know everything all the time or like have a plan all of the time. And like, that just doesn't work. And I think it's great when adults can practice like, I don't know what I'm doing, or like, what are your thoughts or what's your input? Like, let's create this together. And so I think really like, if you're comfortable and have the capacity to like name that and commit to that, I think really naming like, we're going to create the space together. Like, what do you need out of it? What do you want from me? What are you? And that's maybe where we can dream big, right? We can dream big without restriction. But I think really, I don't know, adults need to take themselves less seriously. And I think that's so key to like doing this work well. I know we're over time. So I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you to our Youth Action Board members for speaking. Y'all are amazing. And I just love working with you. I will put, oh yeah, Elizabeth put the YAB referral form in the chat. Thank you so much. We do have some openings. So if you know young people in your lives or that you work with that you think would be interested in the Youth Action Board, please have them fill out the referral form, or they, if they'd rather have a conversation, they can connect with me. They can connect with the Youth Action Board members. Yeah, so I'll stop there. Thank you so much. Thanks, Elizabeth, for having us. Thanks, ChuckNet Health and All Hands, and we'll see you soon.
Big time thanks to each of you. We'll follow up with the slides to everyone, and I hope everyone has just a beautiful Friday. Thank you to each of you for all the wisdom you shared with us. Our job is to take that wisdom and bring it into the world. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you soon.